Have you ever heard someone say I'm going on holiday to Africa, as if it were some quaint little island nation with a single resort? It's baffling, isn't it? And yet, geographical misconceptions run rampant in our society. Over the next half hour, we're diving headfirst into 30 of the most common geography myths. And let me tell you, some of these might just make you question everything you thought you knew about this big, weird, wonderful planet we call home. Let's start with the obvious, shall we? Africa, my friends, is not a country. It's a continent with 54 individual countries, each with its own unique cultures, languages, and landscapes. Imagine telling a Canadian they're American. It's just as absurd when people do it with Africa. This misconception is so common, it's almost as if some people think you can hop on a quick flight from Johannesburg to Cairo and still be in the same country. Newsflash, you can't. Let's talk about Greenland. It sounds like a lush paradise, doesn't it? A land of rolling green hills and verdant forests. But hold your horses, nature enthusiasts. The reality is a tad icier. Greenland is actually covered in, well, ice. 80% of it, to be precise. So why on earth is it called Greenland? Well, it turns out a Viking named Eric the Red might have had something to do with it. Apparently he thought a more appealing name might attract settlers. False advertising, perhaps? Effective marketing? Absolutely. Now let's venture into the world's largest country by landmass, Russia. It's vast, it's cold, and it's home to more trees than you can shake a stick at. Russia boasts the most extensive forest area on the planet. Forget what you heard about the Amazon because the Russians are holding the green crown. These forests are so vast, they could swallow entire countries whole. Now let's talk mountains. Mount Everest, that majestic peak piercing the heavens, right? Well, not quite. Many believe Everest is the closest point to the sun, but that honor actually goes to Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador. The Earth isn't a perfect sphere, it bulges at the equator. And guess what? Chimborazo sits right on that bulge, giving it a little extra height advantage. So Everest might be the tallest from sea level, but Chimborazo wins the closest to space competition. Ah, the Sahara Desert, a vast expanse of sand as far as the eye can see. It has to be the biggest desert in the world, right? Wrong. That title actually goes to Antarctica. Yes, you heard me right. That icy behemoth at the bottom of the world is technically a desert, and a massive one at that. Why? Because deserts are defined by their lack of precipitation, not just their sandiness. And Antarctica, my friends, is one dry place. The Nile River, the lifeblood of Egypt, is often touted as the world's longest river. But hold on a minute, because this is a geographical debate that's been raging for centuries. The Amazon, that South American behemoth, might actually hold the title. Measuring rivers isn't as straightforward as it seems. Do you measure from the furthest source of the river? Do you consider tributaries? It's a geographical conundrum and the jury is still out. Let's go back to Africa, shall we? Because that map you've been looking at your whole life, the one with the familiar Mercator projection, yeah, it's lying to you. The Mercator projection makes countries further from the equator appear much larger than they actually are, and Africa bears the brunt of this distortion. In reality, Africa is massive, large enough to fit the United States, China, India, and most of Europe within its borders. Quick quiz, what's the capital of Australia? Sydney? Wrong, it's Canberra. And what about Brazil? Rio de Janeiro? Nope, it's Brasilia. These are just two examples of commonly misplaced capitals. Our brains like to associate the most famous city in a country with its capital, but that's not always the case. So next time you're booking a flight or bragging about your geography knowledge, double-check those capitals. Now let's talk about a fiery phenomenon, the Pacific Ring of Fire. It's a zone of intense volcanic and seismic activity that circles the Pacific Ocean. This ring is responsible for about 90% of the world's earthquakes and 75% of its volcanoes. If you're planning a vacation around the Pacific, maybe pack an extra pair of fire-resistant underwear, just in case. The Dead Sea, that salty expanse between Israel and Jordan, is famous for its buoyancy. But is it really the deepest lake in the world? Not even close. That honor goes to Lake Baikal in Siberia. This freshwater lake is so deep, it could swallow the Empire State Building whole. The Dead Sea, while impressive, is actually quite shallow in comparison. Let's clear up this geographical head-scratcher once and for all. Iceland, despite its name, is surprisingly green. Think rolling hills, lush meadows, and yes, even some ice. Greenland, on the other hand, is, well, you know the drill. It's a land dominated by ice and glaciers. Some theories suggest it was a deliberate attempt to discourage settlement in one while encouraging it in the other. Clever Vikings. Ah, Canada, our friendly neighbor to the north. It's big, it's cold, and it's full of people who apologize excessively. But is it really the largest country in the world? Sorry, Canada, but the answer is no. That title belongs to Russia. Yes, that sprawling behemoth stretches across 11 time zones and takes up a significant chunk of the northern hemisphere. Canada, you're still pretty big though. The equator, that invisible line circling the Earth's waistline, is often associated with sweltering heat. But here's the thing, the equator doesn't cause seasons. The Earth's tilt is the culprit behind those. The equator actually experiences relatively consistent temperatures year-round. So if you're looking for a break from the sweltering summers and frigid winters, head to the equator. Just don't expect a white Christmas. When it comes to population density, our minds often jump to sprawling cities like Tokyo or Mumbai. But the country with the highest population density is actually Monaco. This tiny city-state on the French Riviera packs a whopping 26,000 people per square kilometer. That's like squeezing the entire population of New York City into an area the size of Central Park. Talk about cozy. The Middle East, a region often portrayed as a homogeneous expanse of deserts and oil fields, is anything but. This culturally and geographically diverse region is home to towering mountains, fertile valleys, and ancient cities. Here's a geographical conundrum that sparked debates in classrooms and bars alike. How many continents are there? The answer, my friends, is, it depends who you ask. Some models count 6 continents, others 7. It all boils down to how you define a continent, which, as it turns out, is surprisingly subjective. So, the next time someone tries to school you on the definitive number of continents, just smile knowingly and tell them it's all a matter of perspective. When we think of countries with long coastlines, our minds often drift to island nations like Indonesia or the Philippines. But the country with the longest coastline might surprise you. It's Canada. Yes, that friendly giant to the north boasts a coastline that stretches over 200,000 kilometers. That's enough coastline to circle the Earth's equator 5 times. So, all those Canadian provinces must really add up. The Caspian Sea, that massive body of water nestled between Europe and Asia, is often referred to as a sea. But here's a twist, it's technically the largest lake in the world. Why? Because it's completely landlocked, meaning it doesn't connect to any ocean. So while its size might scream sea, its geographical location firmly places it in the lake category. The Amazon River, that South American giant, is often touted as the longest river in the world. We touched on that debate earlier. But length isn't the only impressive thing about the Amazon. It also boasts the largest volume of any river on Earth, carrying a staggering 20% of the world's fresh water. That's like having 20 Amazon Prime deliveries of fresh water every second. Okay, maybe not quite, but you get the idea. Mountain superlatives. But there's another contender for the title of tallest mountain. Mauna Kea, a dormant volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii, might not look as imposing from sea level. Mount Everest often steals the show when it comes to mountains from sea level, but measure it from its base on the ocean floor to its peak, and it dwarfs Everest. So while Everest might hold the highest altitude above sea level title, Mauna Kea can claim the tallest mountain from base to peak crown. Antarctica, that icy expanse at the bottom of the world, is often depicted as a barren wasteland, but beneath that thick layer of ice lies a secret. Antarctica is actually home to mountains, valleys, and even lakes. It's a continent of hidden geographical wonders just waiting to be explored. The Dead Sea, known for its high salt content and buoyancy, holds another distinction. It's the lowest land point on Earth. This salty lake sits over 400 meters below sea level, making it the ultimate destination for anyone who wants to get low, geographically speaking, that is. Remember that debate about the continents? Well, get ready for round 2 because the number of oceans is also up for debate. While most of us learned about the 4 main oceans, Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic, there's a growing consensus that the Southern Ocean, surrounding Antarctica, deserves its own designation. So, is it 5 oceans or is it 4? You decide. Or better yet, don't. It's not like knowing the right answer will make you any better at surfing. We've already established that Antarctica is the largest desert in the world, but it also holds another less enviable title, the driest place on Earth. Some parts of Antarctica receive less than 2 inches of precipitation per year. That's drier than the Sahara Desert. So, if you're planning a trip to Antarctica, pack a water bottle and a parka. When it comes to the oldest countries in the world, the answer might surprise you. It's not Greece, it's not China, it's not even Egypt. It's San Marino, a tiny microstate nestled within the borders of Italy. This landlocked nation claims to have been founded in 301 AD, making it the oldest surviving sovereign state. The Himalayas, those majestic peaks piercing the sky, are often seen as unchanging, eternal giants. But the truth is, sovereign state and constitutional republic in the world. The Himalayas are still growing. The Indian tectonic plate is constantly colliding with the Eurasian plate, pushing the Himalayas higher at a rate of about 5 millimeters per year. So while you might not notice the difference in your lifetime, the Himalayas are slowly but surely reaching for the heavens. We've all heard the stories about journeys to the center of the Earth. But here's the thing. The center of the Earth isn't a place you can actually visit. It's a molten core, thousands of kilometers beneath our feet. And contrary to popular belief, it's not filled with dinosaurs or lost civilizations. It's just really, really hot. English might be the language of international business and Hollywood blockbusters, but it's not actually the most spoken language in the world. That title goes to Mandarin Chinese. With over 1 billion speakers, Mandarin Chinese dominates the global linguistic landscape. So, if you're looking for a language to learn that will open up a world of communication possibilities, Mandarin Chinese is a good place to start. Europe, a continent with a complex and often tumultuous history, is a jigsaw puzzle of countries with borders that have shifted and changed over centuries. From the rise and fall of empires to the redrawing of maps after world wars, Europe's borders are a testament to the ever-evolving political landscape of the continent. Alaska, the largest state in the United States, is often depicted as a remote and sparsely populated outpost. But the reality is, Alaska is massive. We're talking bigger than Texas, California, and Montana combined. It's a land of towering mountains, vast glaciers, and abundant wildlife. So the next time you're looking at a map of the United States, take a moment to appreciate the sheer scale of the last frontier. Geographical myths busted. Who knew that a continent could be confused for a country? Or that the world's largest desert is actually a frozen wasteland? It just goes to show that the world is full of surprises. So there you have it. 30 geographical myths full of surprises, and that even the most basic geographical knowledge can be deceiving. Now I know what you're thinking. John, this has been a wild ride through the world of geographical misconceptions. But what about my own geographical blind spots? Well, my friends, that's where you come in. Share your most embarrassing geographical blunders in the comments below. And the next time you're feeling lost, remember, there's no shame in double-checking a map. After all, even the best of us get turned around sometimes.